5. So important. This is what the playoffs are all about.
Straight away, three, good!
He is a machine.
Doncic with 40.
Big games. You got to play hard. You got to play with cards.
For the tie, no good!
This baby is over.
Every year presents a different challenge, and this is what's in front of us. We're going to have to win on the road if we want to become champions.
So what is the message going back down to Dallas for Game 6?
You got to win in 7 now.
Ooh, let's go. We are just a couple hours away from a pivotal elimination game of the Clippers. The Mavs have full control. Tim Legler is here to break it down. This has just been such a banana series because nobody can figure out what. Nobody wants to win at home. Give me a prediction. Like, what do you think's going to happen tonight?
They've broken into each other's homes 5 times and robbed each other blind. All right? It's about time somebody stands their ground in their own house, and I think it's tonight.
Okay.
I think the Dallas Mavericks end this.
So it's over.
I think it is, and a lot of it's going to stem around, obviously, how good Luka Doncic has been and the lack of answers that the Clippers have been able to come up with. Now, tonight, you're definitely going to see some major adjustments on the part of Tyronn Lue, and I would imagine that's going to involve taking the ball out of his hands much more and earlier in the clock and closer to half court so that you're going to force other guys on this team to go create offense. That's my anticipation. See if it plays out that way. I think to this point, the Clippers have just relied on the fact they've got great individual perimeter defenders, but they have not been able to phase Luka Doncic. You can't speed him up. He's too strong. He's getting to his spots on the floor. And I think Luka Doncic controls the pace and tempo again. He might not have another 40-point scoring night, but I think he's going to control the action to such an extent when he sees these double teams. Their role players are going to play with a lot of confidence. I think this is finally the one, somebody wins at home in a very, very crazy series.
Because that's what's been so interesting is that Luke has been dominating, but in the fourth quarter, it's really been the role players that are eating for the Mavs. So we'll certainly see what happens, but it wouldn't be us if we weren't looking ahead. So Legs is sticking around because we've got Eastern Conference semis coming up. But Kevin, what you got?
I got much more on the NBA. 3 is the magic number, as in the big 3. The Bucs made headlines in November when they traded a slew of draft picks to the Pelicans for the right to pair Drew Holiday with Chris Middleton and Giannis. The Nets added James Harden and formed one of the most explosive trios in NBA history with KD and Kyrie. With the matchup in the Eastern Conference semifinals set, these 2 big 3s are ready to meet on their biggest stage yet. Malika Andrews has much more.
This second-round matchup is going to have a lot of attention with Giannis and the big 3 with the Bucs and the Brooklyn Nets.
The sky-high expectations for both the Nets and the Bucs will be put to the test in their second-round clash, which will certainly have plenty of firepower. They were the top 2 scoring offenses in the NBA, averaging nearly 239 combined points during the regular season. That's tied for the most between 2 playoff opponents over the last 50 years. Brooklyn's big 3 is flashy and ferocious.
Razzle dazzle, oh, next level!
Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving have combined for 27 All-Star selections. They have already made history despite playing just 13 games together. In Game 4 of their first-round series against the Celtics, they combined for 104 points, tied for the most by any trio in a playoff game. And for that entire playoff series, they scored or assisted on more than 88% of the team's points. But hey now, the Bucs have a big 3 of their own that they've tailored for the turbulence of a tough postseason run. 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo.
He's unstoppable!
2-time All-Star Chris Middleton.
Middleton, you bet!
And 2-time All-Defense Drew Holiday.
That's it! One final defensive stand.
At first glance, they might not appear to possess the offensive prowess that the Nets do, but take another peek. These 3 combined for over 85 points per game against Brooklyn this season, led by Giannis, who dropped almost 40 per contest. Both teams have critical defensive questions heading into this series. How can the Nets slow down Giannis? How can the Bucs possibly contain Durant, Harden, and Irving? Ultimately, the answers and the series will be decided by one of these big 3.
Malika Andrews, thank you so much. Back here with Tim Legler. Okay, both Giannis and James Harden, they have something to prove because they don't have a ring.
Yeah.
Who has the most pressure entering this series?
It's clearly Giannis. And here's why. As an MVP twice and as the best player on his team twice, he came up short in the playoffs, and he knows it. He took ownership of that. It's one of the things I love about him. He wants it really badly, but that pressure is still there because he's still the best player on that team. And how is he going to get them through this series? He has to be great in order for the Bucs to win this series. James Harden doesn't. Now, he's the most important player on the Nets, but you think about who he's playing with, Kevin. You got Kevin Durant, you got Kyrie Irving. Both guys have won championships. Both guys capable on any given night of being the best player on the floor. So the pressure clearly is on Giannis because, look, Harden can have nights where he's good but not great, and those two guys are, and he still wins the game. That won't be the case with the Bucs. If Giannis Antetokounmpo has off nights, bad nights, inefficient nights, a lot of turnovers, the Bucs can't win, and that's why there's more pressure on him.
All right, keep this in mind. Giannis averaging nearly 40 points in 3 games against the Nets this season. Game 1 is tomorrow night. Sunday, 1 Eastern, her Hawks, my Sixers.
Let's go.
And when you talk about the guard player, who has the most pressure, Trae Young or Ben Simmons entering this series?
It's Ben Simmons, clearly, because Trae Young right now, house money, baby. Nobody thought the Hawks would be in the second round. This is house money for Atlanta. The Sixers are the number 1 seed in the East. This is a team that has championship aspirations. And going into this series, we're still not sure exactly what the status of Joel Embiid is. So that means Ben Simmons has to be a lot closer to the player he was in the closeout game against Washington than some of the other nights when you see him when he's more tentative. If Embiid is not 100% or he misses time at the beginning of this series, Ben Simmons has to be greater. They could dig themselves a hole against Atlanta that they might not dig out of. So for me, it's clearly Ben Simmons because anything that the Hawks do now, and Trae Young I expect to be very good. The guy's an elite level offensive player. Anything the Hawks do in this round is just going to set up next year and expectations. There are none in this series. So Philadelphia's got the pressure, and Ben Simmons in particular.
The key for Simmons specifically in this series, too, is lockdown defense on Trae Young, right? If you can't bring the offense, at least slow down the young fella in the ATL. Legs.
MVP this year, but he's definitely been the MVP of the first round of these playoffs.
Just watch.
Doncic is averaging 35 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds per game. Between his own points and the points he's created via assists, Doncic has his hand in, get this, 58 points per game in this series. But he was even better than that in Game 5.
Unconscious! It's Doncic right now!
In Wednesday's huge Game 5 victory, Doncic either scored or assisted on 31 of Dallas's 37 total field goals made. That's 83.8%, and that is the highest such percentage in a game in NBA history, regular season or playoffs. The Mavericks were 14 of 24 off of Luka passes in Game 5, and by the end of the game, Doncic had a direct hand in 75 points.
That's good.
As a scorer, Doncic almost outscored the Clippers superstar duo of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George by himself. Doncic had 42 points. Leonard and George combined for 43.
In your face.
Unless the Clippers can somehow slow down Doncic in Dallas in Game 6, this series and this Clippers season will be over.
Kirk said it. Ramona knows it. Unless the Clippers can, right? She joins us now from Dallas as the Clippers are approaching tonight's elimination game. How are they approaching this game on the road against Luka Doncic and the Mavs?
Well, you know what's frustrating for the Clippers is they tend to play their best when everybody has spent the rest of the week hating on them, right? And telling them, I can't believe you keep losing at home. They seem to rally whenever the world is sort of against them. They would really like to avoid that again, but they are here now, and this is the spot they're in. And unfortunately for the Clippers, they've done well in those spots. Now, in Game 5, Tyronn Lue said before the game they anticipated that Dallas was going to go with that big lineup where they put Boban Marjanovic in there to go with the extra tall lineup. They're going to play a lot of zone defense. They knew it was coming. Dallas was going to dare the Clippers to beat them from 3, and the Clippers didn't. Kawhi Leonard 1 for 7 from 3, including that air ball at the end of the game. Paul George just 3 for 7 from 3 points. They're actually a pretty good 3-point shooting team, and you know Dallas is going to do that again because it was effective in the last game. They just have to make their shots this time. Now, stopping Luka Doncic, that's a tall task. In this series, the Clippers have almost conceded that Luka is going to get his points. The area where they want to emphasize is shutting everybody else down, and they actually were fairly happy with how they did that against everybody else. Luka Doncic assisted or scored on 31 of the Mavs' 37 field goals in that game. That's 84%. That is unreal. The only other scorer in double figures, though, was Tim Hardaway Jr. If they can do that again and actually hit some shots this time, they feel pretty good about their chances in this Game 6.
In terms of trying to slow down Luka, it's really been Kawhi. He's been the guy that's had the most success, right? We'll see. Holding him 5 for 16. We'll see if he gets more opportunities to do just that. If not, it's a wrap on California teams in the NBA playoffs. Ramona Shelburne joining us ahead of that elimination game. I know, I can't believe it. Like, no Cali team in the second round. That seems bananas to me. But again,